Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start this evening's proceedings, just for some safety notices. So should the alarm come on for any reason, fire or others, so we please proceed to the entrance on your left-hand side, or exit on your left-hand side, and we turn right, and we get onto the open area. You'll see an assembly point there. So that's the place should we need to move out of this venue. So again, good evening, welcome, Professor Delaray, the Vice Chancellor and Principal, the Head of Mining Engineering, Professor Ronnie Weber-Youngman, mining industry leaders that are here this evening, the UP Executive and Senior Management, and our other colleagues. Thank you very much for coming this evening. It's great having so many of you here on a Thursday evening. And without further ado, I'll ask our Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Delaray, to officially welcome you.
Thank you very much, Professor Maraj. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to offer a warm welcome to all of you this evening, and we're particularly delighted to have in the audience a number of Chief Executive Officers, Chief Operations Officers, General Managers, and other representatives of the major mining companies, the Chamber of Mines, the Mine Health and Safety Council, the Joburg Indaba, the CSIR, as well as from a number of our other partners, industries, trade unions, and members of the media. This is a great milestone for us. We have been anticipating this formal launch of the Mining Resilience Research Center in the Department of Mining Engineering for some time. This Mining Resilience Research Center was established with the approval of Senate, the University of Pretoria Senate that is, in July 2016, after an extensive period of planning and consultation among senior staff members of the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and IT, Law, Economics, and Humanities, starting from the year 2014 onwards. I recall in November 2014, Professor Maraj, I welcomed stakeholders from across the sector and the University of Pretoria to a workshop called The South African Mining Industry from Crisis to Resilience by 2025. That event was hosted by our Department of Mining Engineering as part of the broad consultation process leading up to this moment of celebration. That workshop provided a preview of the work to be undertaken by, perhaps you will allow me to use the acronym MRRC, which was then still in the very early planning stages. The center then featured strongly when I officiated a bit later at the opening of the world-leading Kumba Virtual Reality Center, or VCR as we call it, for mine design here at the University of Pretoria, as well as when we opened up the new offices for the Department of Mining Engineering in August 2015. So yes, as you can tell, there has been a long period of gestation leading up to this point. At this point, I'd also like to acknowledge and thank various sponsors who have provided support and assistance in the consultative process leading up to this point of its formal establishment of the Mining Resilience Research Center. Ladies and gentlemen, at the center of the vision of this new center is the concept of resilience. Resilience is a concept nowadays that we talk about quite often. It's a concept that I see frequently featured in current writings about the future of organizations, how to survive turbulent times such as we experience in our country, turbulent times in sectors, and indeed turbulent times for nations as a whole. Now, in my discipline, psychology, resilience is not a new concept. It's a very old concept in psychology. Psychological resilience is defined as an individual's ability to successfully adapt to life's tasks in the face of disadvantage or in the face of highly adverse conditions. In simpler terms, it is a concept to describe how some individuals, despite adversity, are able to bounce back from adversity, or a crisis despite all odds. However, the term resilience, as I referred to earlier, now appears across many disciplines. Whilst there are differences across disciplines, all the definitions emphasize different elements or attributes of resilience, but they speak in a general way to the continued ability of an organization, be it a center, a faculty, a university, a company, or a system as a whole, to adapt to stress, any form of disturbance, so that it may continue to function or quickly recover its ability to function during and after a crisis or period of stress or turbulence. And resilience thinking as a whole has evolved to what nowadays is considered a dominant approach for analyzing changes, particularly in coupled ecological systems. And it's a framework that guides large development programs in a number of sectors, aimed at reducing how we see risk, how we manage risk and vulnerability in various organizations across the world. So from my point of view, the launch of the Mining Resilience Research Center is well timed. It is a center designed to serve one of the largest and most complex sectors of the economy, not only of South Africa, but of the African continent. I'm sure you all know the 2016 World Bank report, where they talk about Africa as a home to about 30% of the world's mineral reserves, 10% of the world's oil, 8% of the world's natural gas. And the mining industry is estimated to be responsible for 19% of all economic activity in South Africa. And that's without measuring the products of the mining industry or related to mining industry support and the broader effect and impact in our society. This ratio is quite similar in many other African countries. And therefore the mining industry, in terms of its scope and its nature, a significant source of economic growth and social transformation in South Africa and in Africa. And there's no doubt it is and will remain a key driver for growth for us in this region and on our continent. And so it is inextricably linked to our future as an African people. With mining comes employment, the promise of a better life, investment in education, the construction of infrastructure, and the generation of much-needed revenue to change lives in the poorest communities in our society. But as we all know, despite the self-evident value of the mining sector, it has become a contested sector from a political perspective, from the perspective of local communities, and from the broader environmental perspective. Hence, this Mining Resilience Research Center has been planned as a platform which brings together multiple areas of expertise, involving several faculties across the university and several of our academic departments, to ensure that our approach to mining resilience is a holistic one, an approach that will cover all these various perspectives, the sociological, the environmental, the political, the economic, of course, and so forth. So, as it indicates, this center aims to increase the resilience of the industry by contributing towards practically implementable solutions to enable the industry to address issues related to broad areas such as productivity, safety, health, environment, social responsibility, and community engagement. And from the university's perspective, I am particularly pleased about the modalities that it has committed to: postgraduate education, short courses, rigorous integrated scientifically based research initiatives, because these are at the heart of what makes the academic mission of our institution. Let me return to the concept of resilience. On the other side of the coin, or perhaps on the flip side of resilience, is innovation. I don't think we could complete a full address like this one without referring to innovation as well as resilience. Because it is through innovation that we become resilient, that we are able to succeed despite complexity and adversity. And I'm confident that given our history in this particular faculty of engineering, built environment and IT, together with our other faculties that we have involved in the consultation and planning and who will be involved in the delivery of the objectives, we will, through innovation, deliver on the promises that will be shared to us tonight by the various members of the faculty at the University of Pretoria. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident that my colleagues who take up the leadership role will, in the future, show you that we can make a significant contribution to resilience in the mining sector, but in a way that will have a much broader impact for all of us across many different sectors in South Africa. I wish to congratulate all of those who have been involved in the formation of the vision, the related consultation and planning. And finally, I believe that if we take a long-term view on what we're really committing to through the Mining Resilience Research Centre, what we're committing to is working together to build a legacy for future generations of South Africans and African citizens. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and once again, welcome.
Thank you, Professor Delary. Much appreciated for your message and as well as the time you took to spend with us this evening in the launch of this particular event. So colleagues, as you can see on the slide up there, last year was a very significant year for our engineering program at University of Pretoria. We celebrated 60 years of engineering education, starting from a humble 56 students to around 8,500 students. So in the last 15 years, we grew by something like 300% in engineering program. So that makes us quite a significant player in the South African and the African space. Of course, growing and being big is one thing, but there are many challenges that come with that as well. So I'm not going to bore you with many statistics about our faculty. I can tell you many things about that, but I'll ask our HOD for Mining Engineering, Professor Ronnie Weber-Youngman, to tell you more on the mining program and the MRRC, and then we'll discuss more on some of the initiatives we have in the faculty. Professor Youngman.
Vice-Chancellor and Principal Professor Delary, University of Pretoria Council members, the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and IT, Professor Sunil Maharaj, the CEOs of several mining companies present here tonight, current HODs of all the mining schools in South Africa, distinguished mining industry guests, fellow colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, good evening from my side as well. Thank you very much for joining us tonight in celebration of the official launch of the Mining Resilience Research Centre at the University of Pretoria. My presentation and that of Professor du Plessis, the director of the MRRC established in my department in 2016, will show why we believe in the future of the department and the mining industry and how we see new interventions and contributions that will change the face of mining and mining education and research, not only in South Africa, but Africa and the rest of the world. My presentation will also give a brief overview of the challenges associated with the fourth industrial revolution and what we as a department are currently also doing to address those. Working in the mining industry is not getting easier. A new way of doing things through the use and implementation of the latest technology is no longer a nice to have. Adapting is a have to. As mining universities, we are very excited to be part of this new dawn in mining, a new sunrise for the mining industry, if I may say. Research-related activities in terms of applied and fundamental research will in future play a significant role in terms of how we are going to address our challenges. Innovation, modernization, next generation mining, no matter what you call it, will be at the order of the day. And what to do to ensure a sustainable, profitable, safe, and healthy, productive mining operation in a responsible manner in future is no longer negotiable. We as a department also know that we are already did so in the past, and still want to make a major contribution in eradicating the ugly triplets in our communities, namely poverty, unemployment, and inequality, by providing good quality mining engineers, our products, we refer to them, to the mining industry. This evening, however, celebrates the establishment of the Mining Resilience Research Center at the University of Pretoria, and will show how we already contribute to contribute towards, and will do so in future, to make mining a more attractive, sexier environment to work in. My program, or my presentation for this evening, is broken up into three components: the fourth industrial revolution and the related challenges that will have an impact on the mining industry, a brief overview of the department and related successes over the last few years, and then my colleague, Professor Du Plessis, will conclude the evening's activities with an overview of activities relating to the Mining Resilience Research Center that was established in 2016. If you look at the slide, we are in the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution. This is a technical revolution that fundamentally alters how we work, live, and interact with our environment. It is of a scale, scope, and complexity that is unprecedented in human history. It is the topic of discussion in many leadership circles, including government, private sector business, and academia. It was also the theme for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, in 2016. So what is this revolutions that we're talking about? The first revolution that started in 1784 was based on the use of mechanical production equipment driven by water and steam power. The second revolution that started in 1870 was based on mass production enabled by the division of labor and the use of electrical energy. The third revolution that started in 1969 was based on the use of electronics and IT to further automate production, whereas the fourth industrial revolution is based on the use of cyber-physical systems. When compared with these previous industry revolutions, the fourth revolution is evolving at an exponential rather than a linear pace. It is disrupting almost every industry in every country and transforming entire systems of production, management, and governance. And the role of disruptive technology will be significant in future. We as universities need to align ourselves to accommodate the new set of skills required to be successful, and the Department of Mining Engineering embraces that challenge. Words associated with this revolution are artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, connectivity, and quantum computing. Imagine millions and billions of people connected by mobile devices with unprecedented processing power, practically unlimited storage capacity, and instantaneous access to knowledge. Now imagine the potential to multiply this through emerging technology breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, material science, and quantum computing. If we look at what the World Economic Forum identified as the 10 skills that were needed to thrive in the Industrial Revolution, the reason why I'm mentioning these is to see or to show you in what way that the Department of Mining and also the university in a very big way are aligning themselves in terms of these skills that were identified to survive the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The first one, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, groups in group work related activities, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiating, and then also the cognitive flexibility. And if you look at all of those, they are all related to people. And people are going to become more and more important in how we deal with this fourth industrial revolution. So what do we say? If robots is going to take over everything, people think it's not the truth. From an article that I read, which was underscribed by PwC in 2017, just recent, that there are 5 things that machines will not be able to do. And the importance of that specific skill in terms of the 5 is indicated in the number behind the skill identified. The first one, which was highlighted as number 5, is emotional intelligence. The second one was creativity and innovation. Leadership was the third one, adaptability, and then problem solving. And if we take these arguments even further, and you think how machines and humans will coexist in future, the following was said. In the first scenario, machines take our jobs, so we create new jobs. Machines only take some of our jobs, and if they do take our jobs, we design new machines. And in that was an answer that I said that people will always play a significant role in getting what we want to achieve. So the importance is that we need to relook the way we do things. So what does the mine of the future look like? Now, I don't have all the answers, but I know it's going to be different. We're going to look at what we say in terms of improving employee safety, increasing productivity, lower our energy consumption, and also then reduce our environmental impact. And in all of this, disruptive technology will play a significant role. Mines will be more remote control in most of the mining activities. We want to reduce the man-machine risk interface, which include robotics and autonomous vehicles. And then obviously the future of virtual reality and augmented reality applications in the mining industry, I believe, is quite huge. Take it a little bit further. Real-time mine production through monitoring, analysis through scanning and other monitoring, real-time measuring, and also the response from the information that is obtained is going to be the order of the day. Real-time mine planning and design optimization, thinking about the digital twin concept, is going to play a significant role in the future. Medical is already doing operations and examinations using holography. Why not mining? 3D printing for mine designs is a given. It's going to happen. I don't know of any company at this stage that's really using 3D printing to print their mine designs. And like I mentioned, the other disruptive technologies that we're going to deal with in future. So what is the vision of the department? The department aligns itself with the vision of the university in terms of being a leading research-intensive mining engineering department in Africa. And we know that in the context of what I've just said now, that the Mining Resilience Research Center is going to make a significant contribution. In terms of the mission statement, I think I'm only going to read you one word. I'm encouraging my students to become Imagineers, imagining engineering solutions for the challenges that are facing us in industry in future. So what was the department's mining strategic intent in terms of student numbers? Now, the mining department in the past was not very well known for graduating massive numbers of postgraduate students. And I don't have to tell you that your innovation and your new development happens in your postgraduate environment. So what did we do? In our 2025 vision for the department, we've decided to have 200 undergraduate students and 100 postgraduate students, and you can see it's a third of my total number of students. And the nice thing about why I think this is possible, I'll share with you just now. I also have a vision that 30% of my postgraduate registered students need to be full-time in the department as research staff. And I've got a target of 5 PhDs, 10 masters, and 15 honors students. And I can say this evening that I'm already 50% there. And the other 70% is be my distance learning students, which I will then get from industry. Our graduate target is 50 graduates per year. This number we've already achieved in 2015 and 2016, and the final year class of 2017 indicates 58 graduates. Our strategic intent to maintain our current undergraduation throughput numbers is there, but we really want to increase our postgraduate graduation to at least 30 a year, where we already had in the last 3 years between 15 and 20 graduates. Innovation through applied and fundamental research is really the drive that I believe in future will be able to give us the research activities that we think will make mining, not think, know that will make mining better. Let me conclude 2 slides with success stories that we've had in the department. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I think it relates directly to the needs that we want to have to address the 4th Industrial Revolution. The first success story I want to share with you is that the department in 1997 was a white Afrikaans-only department of 67 male students. We are today 260 students, 80% historically disadvantaged South Africans, and 25% ladies. I think it's a success story in 20 years that we've achieved in the department in changing our demographic profile. We have our new offices for the Department of Mining Engineering to the value of about 50 million rand that was launched in 2015, like the principal said. The Kumba Virtual Reality Center, the only kind in Africa, and which I'm very proud of, that it was something that was born out of a vision that Mr. Chris Griffith, the CEO of Kumba at that time, had. The birth of immersion occasion and its related application in the department and the faculty. Our students are learning in different ways, and cell phones and related technology enhances the learning experience. The Sasol Chair in Safety, Health and Environment and Community was basically established with a need to address those issues in the industry, but also with one of the aims to establish a research center. The Harmony Chair in Rock Engineering and Numerical Modeling was also established, and it was reinstated for another 3 years at the end of last year. English literacy, which I believe is one of the very big challenges that we have, and even in the mining industry, I always said that I think the lack of English competency is a high risk. We've embarked on a process 3 years ago where we involving all our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year students in an English competency drive, because only 7% of my student body has got English as first language, and that indicated me a need to address that specifically as well. We've established the Mining Engineering Leadership Academy 5 years ago, and I'm glad to say that it's aligning itself with the Chamber of Mines 2030 Mining Leadership Drive. And it's concentrating on the soft skills related to my students and what they will need in industry one day to be successful as young engineers. We've got a student wellbeing committee in the department that we started with support from the SIMM specifically, and also from our alumni society, MASIP, where we actually at this stage offering students meals per day, accommodation that we share with them, and we also look at the needs that they have in terms of their personal shortcomings that they have in being a successful student. The internationalization of the department and its staff through the Society of Mining Professors, I'm glad to say that all my staff members are registered with the Society of Mining Professors and that we are actively involved in that society. And then I would like to also mention the establishment of the Mining Engineering Education in South Africa, MISA. I see my one colleague, Professor Casper Musingweni from Wits School of Mining, is also here. And for those people that don't know, in 2015, the 4 heads of school, Wits, Takkies, UJ, got together, and UNISA. And we formed this discussion forum so that we could share challenges that are shared between the 4 universities. And I must say, in the 2 years that we've running with this on a quarterly meeting basis, we've actually sorted out a lot of problems that we had with certain scenarios that we had to deal with in our education practice. And then I think the biggest success story, and the principal has alluded to this, is the Mining Resilience Research Center. And I did say earlier that when I was a student, and even now when I was the head of department for the last 10 years, in the beginning, we did not have a lot of students in the postgraduate space. And it was because it's because we didn't focus on that as such, I think. But when we got this challenge that the mining industry is changing and that we need to adapt, we came up with the idea of the Mining Resilience Research Center. And I would like to share with you now a video of various stakeholders in the industry and what their view is in terms of why a birth and the need for a multidisciplinary Mining Resilience Research Center was necessary. The department in 2012 decided to establish a SASOL chair, Mine Health and Safety and Environment. And part of the objectives of that chair was specifically to look at how we can actually enhance the research capacity within the department. It was then decided to see what was else done in the rest of the world, and we then, through the involvement of SASOL Mining, and specifically at Jordan, we went to Australia in 2012 in May to actually go visit the Sustainable Mining Institute in Brisbane, Australia. And we were accompanied by Mr. Dorian Emmett from Anglo American, who was also part of the party, to see what the work would entail with regards to the SMI in Brisbane. And I'm glad to say that when we visited the SMI, we came back to South Africa with the idea of then establishing the Mining Resilience Research Center at the University of Pretoria. And the resilience was a product of what the Anglo American at that point in time was doing in the risk management process, where they were talking of taking reactive procedures and reactive responses to challenges in the industry to be more, not just even proactive, but be more resilient in terms of its application in future. So I'm very proud to say that the Mining Resilience Research Center was a product of the collaboration incentives between SASOL Mining and also the involvement of Anglo American.
The Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and Information Technology hosts the Mining Resilience Research Center at the University of Pretoria. It is located within the Department of Mining Engineering in our EBIT faculty. It is generally acknowledged that the resources industry, such as mining, is the main source of economic growth and social transformation in South Africa and many African countries. In making the South African mining sector sustainable, smarter, more efficient, and economically competitive, the University of Pretoria established the Mining Resilience Research Center.
I think most of us mining engineers and most of us that are in the mining game will know that mining was actually the bedrock of much of the development of South Africa. You look at the whole of Johannesburg and what is now the Greater Gauteng, a lot of that development actually came from and as a result of the mining industry. And if you look at the expansion of many different parts of the country, if you look around Kimberley and the Northern Cape, and you look around now the eastern limb of the Bushveld complex, the western limb of the Bushveld complex, around Rustenburg and all the towns surrounding that area, you can see that mining has been the heart of development in South Africa. Of course, let's not forget the gold mining areas around Welkom and Klerksdorp, Stilfontein, Orkney. Many of those areas, and now, even though mining forms a much smaller part of those areas, mining, of course, has been the essence of the development of those areas, and now that has got a life of its own and continues to develop. So, as we look back in the past, all of us, I think, would agree that it was mining that formed the essence of that development. If we think about the present, and I'll look at the present, say, over the last 8 years, probably post the global financial crisis, and I think we'd all again acknowledge that this has been a really difficult time for the mining industry in South Africa and also the mining industry across the world. If we look at post the global financial crisis, what we have seen is we've seen a diminishing demand for commodities across the world. as we started seeing China and the Chinese economy starting to slow down and also change from a huge industrialized investment economy into increased consumption-led economy. What we're seeing is that the demand for steel, for iron ore and coking coal, we're even seeing now a reduction of thermal coal. And so we're seeing this across the world. We're actually seeing a slowing demand for commodities. We're seeing a decline in commodity prices. We're seeing a rapid increase in many of the costs that go into mining. So particularly here in South Africa, we've seen rapid increases in the cost of energy. We've seen rapid increases in the amount of demands that we're getting, from social demands from government and from communities. So, and that is not only in the form of additional cash, it's also those kind of demands are often stopping production. So it's increased costs as a result of less productivity and increased costs. Of course, we're seeing declining productivity in many of our operations.
South African mining industry has been under severe pressure in recent years. Our mines have been going extremely deep underground, and this has resulted in complex, unstructured mining problems and challenges. These complex challenges have created the need for a new way of doing things. We need the courage to get new thinking in solving mining and challenges facing our industry.
In terms of the current state of the mining industry, it is quite worrying to us that, particularly if you look at the gold and the platinum sector, as the mines go deeper, the conditions just become much more challenging. And therefore, the need to modernize our industry is just becoming more urgent, and thereby extending the lives of mines and also achieve zero harm in that process. So with the work that we've done, we've concluded that if we do nothing, if we do not modernize, there will be a serious decline in raw resources over the next 10 years, and particularly the gold and the platinum sector.
The MRRC has got a unique composition in that it's going to try and resolve issues that's within our mining industry through multidisciplinary teams.
When we had the Mine Health and Safety Council Summit, reviewing the progress that we've made that far, we came up with very bold milestones. One of the milestones that we came up with was that by 2020 there's going to be zero fatalities. We also have a slogan in the industry which says that every mine worker must return from work unharmed every day, of which we believe that is achievable. One of our key mandate, or the core mandate of Council, is to conduct research on occupational health and safety matters as part of the advice to the Minister of Mineral Resources.
So I would say that the present in mining in South Africa and pretty much across the world, I would suggest that we're not in great shape. But at the same time, so what does that mean for us for the future? Certainly me personally, but I know many of my fellow colleagues, CEOs across the industry, actually have got great faith and great belief in the future of mining, certainly here in South Africa, but also across the world.
Thank you for listening to me. I think you can see I'm as passionate as I've shown you tonight. I think the Mining Resilience Research Centre and also involvement with the Department of Mining is going to make major contributions to the industry. Thank you for listening to me.
Good evening. This is the only time you're allowed at university to bring some crib notes, that's if you forget your script. We have seen the deadly seriousness of the discussion this evening in that we are in one of the greatest industries in the world, not just in South Africa. But there was a need for change. Now, if we consider, most of the things always comes from the past. In 1992, Prof. Phillips, which was then the head of the Department of Mining Engineering at the University of the Witwatersrand, said that the lack of research funding to universities could have a devastating effect on South African world status as a mining country. He also claimed that the sustainable support is critical, as at that time that universities' culture were much better suited for fundamental research. They also claimed at the time that COMRO, these were the heydays of COMRO, and later the CSIR, were better at conducting applied research. The closure of COMRO in 1994 and transferring some of the staff into the CSIR, but later the closure of the mining research capacity at the CSIR, exposed our industry to some extent. It also at that time created the need for stronger university and all the centers researched for focused activities, but now not only to provide fundamental research, but also to play into the field of applied research. The demise of these industries or these institutions created a gap, and unfortunately a lot of capable researchers left the industry, some to join industry, some for international opportunities. We lost a large number of researchers to Australia and the United States, but a lot of them also joined private practice to become consultants. And consultants do not play in the field of research or applied research normally. Thus, a few years ago, we were in a dire need to re-establish capacity and look at modern-day mining needs, not with only just South Africa, but also into Africa. Now, the Mining Resilience Research Centre was really established with the aim of becoming a leading international contributor to provide solutions to the ever-increasing complex mining problems. We have seen through Prof. Weber-Youngman's presentation that industry is changing rapidly. The world around industry is changing rapidly. Also, the demand for commodities is changing rapidly. A point in time most probably is where our platinum industry is at present, where the recycling of material hurt them hard in the last couple of years. Further, the mission is to increase resilience in our industry. Resilience not just within our mines, but the resilience around our mines. Johannesburg is most probably one of the only success stories where a mining town turned into a vibrant capital of a country, especially a business capital, maybe not the capital of South Africa, but mostly mining, once they leave, do not leave a legacy of resilience, and that needs to change. Thus, we refer to ourselves resilience through research, not only in mining, but also in the surrounding environments. When this center was established, and I have got a lot of gratitude to express to Rob Smart, which is in the audience. He did all the hard groundwork within the university, speaking to all the stakeholders and also to outside of the industry. And these strategic goals are just as he has set them, to be a leading research center, to conduct relevant research, not just fundamental research for the sake of research, to strengthen the center's national and international profile, which is critical to our department and to the university, but in the end to be financially independent, not to be able to stand alone in industry or as a research center will be a fundamental detriment. Now, this led to this, the logo of the MRRC, which in the internal circle, it looks like a hub and spoke, but not quite spoke, maybe just a hub in this case, with all of our external stakeholders very close to the MRRC, surrounded by the 10 faculties within the University of Pretoria, and obviously with the aim to do the appropriate research, but also critically to develop the next generation of researchers, mining engineers, and miners of the future. Because the skills that we embed into the mining engineers today is not going to be the skills that is required to take the the mining forward. How will we be governed? The University of Pretoria owns enterprises, and all projects is coordinated through enterprises. So we have our internal associates, which a lot of them I'm very pleased to see sitting here within the audience tonight, as well as some of our external associates and collaborators. We are establishing teams to provide solutions. Not all of that solutions can be provided only internally. So we are busy establishing a very good network of working together. And later on you'll see that through our industry, as Prof. Ronnie has already elaborated, it's not only the universities that started to work together, but also the CSIR and some of the other role players. So it is UJ, CSIR, and University of Witwatersrand. We are seen as one entity going forward. So what are we focusing on at the moment? Growing our international collaborative networks. We have many proposals out internationally. We haven't been successful yet, but we will be soon. We also are busy establishing strong internal associations. It is quite difficult to understand the culture of a university if you do not work within a university. But I'm glad after returning after 20 years to see that we can work together as one. We are continuing, and we're very grateful to the Mine Health and Safety Council. I'll show some of the projects that were involved within 1 year after being established. And we're very, very pleased with where Samardi is going and the drive from industry, government, and us as the research organizations, as well as the CSR that's taken a leading role. We're also looking after our industry partners, looking at mining houses and private companies, because in the future it's going to be a multidisciplinary solution even within our industry. Now, what is the relevance of our industry? I thought tonight I could come here and bore you all with a presentation or death by PowerPoint, but we decided rather, like Prof. Ronnie has already introduced in part one, is to ask our partners out in industry, what is the relevance of research? What is the relevance of research organizations going forward?
As the mining industry is a very complex one, it involves various sectors in the country. Similarly, the MRRC is located in the EBIT faculty. The whole MRRC ecosystem will primarily involve many experts across the various faculties at University of Pretoria, from engineers to information technologists to economists to social scientists, legal and business leadership experts, such that we have a systemic approach to making the mining industry more resilient. Hence, we can position South Africa as a smart economy within the future smart African cities vision we aspire to. I think the important aspects we need to consider is that University of Pretoria has many faculties ranging from business to engineering to legal to law to business leadership and so forth. So the uniqueness we bring in the MRRC is able to bring these different experts together into one center, working in unison in partnership with government, labor and business to look at the complex and societal challenges facing the mining sector. That's the unique contribution we can bring at University of Pretoria through the various experts, but importantly, all working together for a common vision.
The modernization of mining, and that isn't only mechanization. It means modernization around how we work with our labor, the interactions and the way we have those relationships between labor and capital, the relationships that we need to have with communities. So we need to modernize those relationships, modernize the participation of communities in the mining companies, not only in shareholding, but also in supply chains, and to make sure that actually the greater society seems to benefit from mining, not only the taxation that we pay and the benefits to our shareholders. So the modernization of labor and community is important, but also the modernization of our mining methods. And the modernization of our mining methods clearly will have an increased mechanization. And that's not only a bad thing. If you look at many of the youngsters coming out of school today, they don't want to mine in the same way that perhaps their parents did, in a more conventional hard rock, working in confined spaces with a lot of people in hot areas with little ventilation, hard work that has got tremendous physical effects on the body. So the youngsters coming out today don't want to mine in that area. So this is not only about companies wanting to mechanize because it's good for productivity and for profitability. It's also the people that work in those environments want a different way to mine. And we think that actually we have the tools and the ability, we certainly have the mining engineering capability to be able to mechanize and modernize the mining in South Africa. So all around for the future as well, I think there's a lot of good going for us. It's certainly a great time to be a mining engineer. It's certainly a great time to be a student entering into this industry, because just think of the opportunities that are available for us now to really make a difference around modernization.
I think through research and development, we can be able to bring in new technology, innovations, create new inventions that will change the South African mining industry for the future. The South African mining industry, through research and development, can be able to compete at a global level once again.
We have established a center of excellence in terms of improving the manner that we are conducting research, because research has been the key part in terms of our improvement in the last 20 years. We've been researching on the various issues, including falls of ground, silicosis, and making sure that we have the desired improvement. And the reason why we have made such progress is because of the research outcomes that we have been having over the years, and the implementation and the adoption of the outcomes of research.
We are fortunate that we also are developing a whole new generation of young researchers, which is very, very much needed within South Africa and in the African context. There's been a gap that formed since COMRO and the CSR has led all of the research labs. Therefore, the only places where good research is happening at the moment is at the universities. And by drawing on the expertise that sits with all the departments and all the faculties in the University of Pretoria, I do believe that we can make a sincere difference to how our industry would look in the future.
We believe that the University of Pretoria Mining Resilience Research Center is going to be forming a cornerstone in terms of the research that we'll be conducting going forward as Mine Health and Safety Council. So we have a really beneficial relationship, and the quality of research that is actually coming out of the Mining Resilience Research Center, it's exciting, and it's something that we can actually write home about.
What our vision for the future is to actually look at an industry that is modernized and driven in a very holistic manner through the technologies that we use, the processes, and very important also the people. And if we can get that right, in our estimation, we can get access to resources equivalent to 8 large platinum mines and 11 large gold mines. And contrary to what many people believe, we will actually save 200,000 jobs by modernizing the industry.
No single company has the skill, no single company has the resources, certainly not the financial resources, but also the access to different parts of what eventually will make modernized mining successful. So we're very excited about some of the work that certainly the University of Pretoria are doing. We're very excited about actually the work that all the universities are doing. We're very excited that the mining companies themselves are certainly spending more money, they're spending more time and effort and putting resources behind increased mechanization and modernization of mining. So again, I think it's a great time for research institutions. I think it's a great time for universities, and I think it's a great time for the mining industry as we look to see how we can bring various skill sets together. How do we bring different resources? How do we connect? How do we learn from each other? And I think the MRCC has got a great role to play in that regard.
Just to follow on some of the projects that's currently ongoing within the Mine Health and Safety Council, the projects listed here are only projects that are currently actively being formed part of the MRRC. We also have a few other projects available or busy with, some in humanities, where we provide service through, but they don't fall under the project leadership of the MRRC, as well as projects in the health department. So if you can look at these, you'll see it's right across many faculties. We have completed one of the projects. We've got 8 in the pipeline, and we hope on our current tenders, we have 3 that we've put out. Probably the most exciting one for us is the Mobile Immersive Training Center that would take immersive training to the mines. So the outcomes of research we can visualize and take to the mines, because there's no ways that we can take 50,000 people through our virtual reality training center, but we can take it there. This is a modular system. It's containerized, can go in the back of a 35-ton truck, and we can take it where we want it. And this is one of the flagship projects that we're driving. Also very, very exciting, in parallel to when we identified these initiatives, and it's not just our university, also the University of Witwatersrand, also our industry, through SAMERDI and through the research organizations, CSI, UP, WITS, UJ, Chamber of Mines, government, DTI, DST, you name it, all of the people got together into the mining Pakisa and realized that our industry really need a focused research initiative. Now, this is a bit of a frightening initiative, especially the older generation of us, which I can classify myself as, because it's an open platform. How do you get everybody to work together in a non-competitive environment where we do not have to prepare a bid or a tender, but we just form part of the research solution? And I think Zitze, which is sitting in the back there, he had a large part of the problem that he's generated for us, but there's good movement. We would be focusing on advanced ore body knowledge, modernization, mechanization, non-explosive rock breaking, real-time information, and very, very importantly, human factors. And that is one of the areas where our department is focusing heavily on, straight through from the leadership and skills that's going to be required, as I've already mentioned, for the miner of the future, as well as the mining engineer of the future. We're also doing projects and contract research for industry. Not going to bore you with those. Those are a few of the ones that we've completed in the last year. One of the very exciting ones, which we are busy preparing for now, also through a very multi-faceted approach, is the Marion Roberts, where we are looking at the potential African market penetration, developing a strategic research for them to see how they can do that. And that can only be done through collaboration, because that skills doesn't sit only within the mining engineering department. Another short video.
What encourages us about the MRRC is that they're going to give us access to all the disciplines within the University of Pretoria. And the challenges that we face are not mining engineering challenges only. They are multidisciplinary in nature. And that is why we think it will be very important for the MRRC to be part of the public-private partnership that we are currently establishing with the appropriate governance and funding arrangement. Another advantage of the MRRC is the Virtual Reality Center, the largest in Africa. And what that will do, it will actually bring life to the conventional way of training with textbooks and whiteboards. So that will make a big difference for the people who are being educated in mining. And also it will allow the engineers to actually do mine designs from an economic and safety and health point of view and test them in a virtual space without putting anybody's lives at risk. So we are busy with our plans on the public-private partnership, and then we also have we're busy developing a communication plan with all the different stakeholders to stimulate curiosity and interest, and hopefully thereby engage them into the process so that they, with energy and enthusiasm, can participate in this discussion. And hopefully through that we can build sustained support for the modernization, not as a concept only, but an unfolding reality for the mining industry in South Africa.
This center is very important because South Africa has got the technology and the know-how, and it has been involved in the mining for a long time. So there is a room for research, not only the technology part of it, but also for other models on how the continent can benefit out of mining. For example, in terms of technology, maybe there are some ways which this center can help other African countries on how to assess their minerals so that they can be able to make good contractual arrangements with the foreign companies.
I think through research and development, young engineers are given a platform to explore new ideas for changing the future of the South African mining industry. I think through research and development, young engineers have the opportunity now to work in collaboration with other professions to bring in new technology, new innovations, invent new technologies that will sustain and enable the South African mining industry in particular to compete at a global level as it was some 10 or 15 years ago.
We're very excited about what's happening in the country. We're very excited about the future. And we're certainly very excited about the potential that our universities have to assist us to make those next breakthroughs. And we certainly can't wait long for that to happen. So we're going to have to be really all pushing hard. But again, I think it's a really exciting place for those of us that are in the mining industry, those of us that are mining engineers and chemical and mechanical engineers. There's so many wonderful opportunities are available to us in this exciting time. Thank you very much.
This interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach is significant and makes the MRRC a unique establishment within the African and South African context. The University of Pretoria, being a research-intensive university, has many leading academic experts across the various faculties who, working in unison, should be able to develop various approaches to the complex economic and social challenges in partnership with labor and industry. We believe that this approach of business, communities, labor, government and academia working together must make a difference. We reach out to all to join us in this journey.
University of Pretoria has the Mining Resilience Research Center, which is part of the whole team of the partners through the University of Pretoria. So there is value. Already we've got a number of projects that we have been conducted by the University of Pretoria on behalf of Mine Health and Safety Council, of which we believe that the outcomes of that research will take us to a next level in terms of the performance of occupational health and safety in the mining industry. The relationship that we have started with University of Pretoria is going to be a long-term relationship, especially with their focus on the mining in research that is required by the industry. So we foresee a very long-term beneficial relationship with the Mining Resilience Research Center of the University of Pretoria.
It is our vision that the Mining Resilience Research Center would be the leading mining research center on the African continent. It is our vision that we should be able to resolve all issues surrounding mining as well as in the mines, and that this would be achieved through the development of a whole new generation of researchers that would develop the skills to be able to assist all our mines in the new South Africa.
I think we have demonstrated the need for multi-party alliances that includes universities, governments, unions, industry, communities, to name a few that was discussed here tonight. It's never been more needed than now for us to meet the future challenges to create a resilient industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ronnie Wiebe-Youngman and Professor Jan du Plessis. Thank you for giving us a nice broad expose of all the things, and of course getting all the industry and the key role players involved. So colleagues, we come to the end of this evening's presentations. So before we close, I'd just like to pass a vote of thanks. As Professor Ronnie mentioned, when we conceived this idea around 2014, and we thought, how do we start this whole thing? And you know, anything to start, you need a champion, you need a foot soldier who can sleep, eat, and drink this every day. And we all have many responsibilities. And when Ronnie brought the idea of getting Rob Smart, who had just retired, on board, I think that was the greatest, intervention we did at that time. And to take a guy out of retirement, sitting in Stellenbosch, drinking wine, and planting olives, to bring him up here to UP, to Pretoria, of all the places, to help us. And Rob, I'd like to thank you very much on behalf of the faculty to start this process. And it was not easy, because conceive, how do we get all the role players involved? How we start talking to people about this? How do we convince them, listen, this is the idea we need to go forward with, and how do they come on board? And I think we are fortunate that Rob, having worked in industry, having a good network, and through that process, getting academia and, of course, the unions. I think that was also a great thing. When we had the first meeting, we had all the major unions in South Africa sitting and discussing this with us. And that was a great initiative, bringing everybody on board to have a common vision. So, Rob, I'd like to thank you for planting the seed. And we're hoping this tree will grow through Jan du Plessis taking over as director, growing this and nurturing it and working with others. And I'm hoping that we'll see the fruits of these actions over time. Of course, I'd like to thank Professor Ronnie, the head of department, because end of the day, through his leadership and his, what you call, gathering all the forces together, was able to drive this process. And of course, again, Jan du Plessis for taking this forward. I think that was a great initiative. Of course, this was not possible without the support from the mining industry at large, for them seeing the value proposition and coming on board, and of course being here tonight as well, showing this support of yours and your commitment to working together to address these issues. We all have many things to do, but I think if we all can add our little pieces together, we can build this great puzzle and hopefully address, as Jan du Plessis said, all the challenges for South Africa and Africa related to the mining space. And of course the Mining Health and Safety Council for supporting us and being part of this initiative, and the various government and organizations. I also like to thank the various UP stakeholders, because end of the day, it's not about engineering, it's more about the other factors than engineering, the economists, the social scientists, the planners, and so forth, because I think they bring an important facet to the whole ecosystem, as we said, and of course, enterprises at UP for also being part of this whole initiative. So as we mentioned, the strength of this particular MRRC is going to be the inter- and transdisciplinary work we're going to do. But I think very importantly is how we engage each other going forward, and the clearly defined outcomes we map for ourselves in terms of what we achieve in the pieces of work we do, and of course, how do we measure what we achieve there? Because, we need to take small bite sizes and do them well, and then build on that going forward. And I think the resilience and sustainability of that is very important, so that we make good business decisions from that end of the day. And of course, continuously attract South Africa, or people to South Africa, as a good place for business, as a good business destination. So at the end of the day, that's what matters. If people cannot have or prepare to invest their money here, or to come and do business with us, or create a vibrant economy, then all this fancy research we do comes to nothing. So I think the research must have defined outcomes going forward. And the other thing I thought that's important is that now that we started this initiative in the 2 or 3 years going forward, I thought maybe I can throw a challenge to Bernard Swanepoel, that maybe at the next Mining Indaba or future Mining Indabas, we can have events where we can show what mining resilience is doing for South Africa as a whole, and maybe have talks or discussions or showcases of some of the work that's being done across the country, whether it's universities or the Mining Health and Safety Council, or whether it's industries that are doing some work of their own. I think that will show the galvanizing impact of the collective work that we're doing as going forward. Also, I'd like to thank the support we had from the UP management, of course, and the different stakeholders from the different faculties and the different departments, because end of the day, this is not an engineering initiative. We may be driving it, but it's certainly everybody's initiative. And we continuously try to do that, is to bring everybody on board, because, like we said, the success of this is through everybody's efforts and everybody's commitment to a common vision and purpose. So colleagues, again, thank you very much for being here. It's great meeting so many of you from industry coming to spend the time with us in this winter evening. And I'm hoping that we can continue some of the discussions during refreshments. And please join us for refreshments in the foyer. And please drive home safely. Thank you very much.